It would help if I got myself up on the stage. Good morning, Ramen. Good morning, Tyre. Oh, boy, do I have some stuff today. And I'm sure other people have covered this because this has been pretty wild. This has been pretty freaking wild the past 24 hours. And I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I am basically going to play a judicial hearing committee from start to finish. The only thing I've edited out, because there was four nominees, and the only thing I edited out is mostly stuff being asked of the other nominees. There are stuff in there about other nominees, but I just made some jumps between the betweens because there's the majority of the committee hearing went around one woman. And it's just unfreaking believable. And then there's a teacher that I'm sure other people will have covered or will cover that raises questions, raises lots of questions. So let's get into this. All right. Well, let's start here. Joe Biden has now nominated over 200 judicial nominees, and he's had his 200th one just confirmed. The Senate on Wednesday confirmed President Biden's 200th judicial nominee, surpassing the number of appointments to the federal judiciary made by his two most recent predecessors at this point and in their presidencies. Now, remember, back during Trump's administration, the left and the media was going nuts about how Trump was going to ruin the court system in the United States by all his conservative nominees. And he was being condemned. And the Senate was, and the media was going nuts over how Trump was uh, packing the court system with his ultra conservative, ultra maggie and maggot, as they like to call them, judges. You don't see that kind of press now with Biden. They're congratulating him. The Senate marked its milestone after its approval of Carissa Lanham on Tuesday and the vote to confirm Angela Martinez on Wednesday, both the seats in the federal court system in Arizona. With their confirmations, Biden has placed 42 judges on the courts of appeals, 155 judges in U.S. district courts, and two on the Court of International Trade. He also named Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson of the Supreme Court a history-making nominee as she became the first black woman to serve on the nation's highest court. There are more than 40 current open seats and another 28 future. The country has more than 860 authorized judgeships. Biden has 24 more nominees pending, including one we're going to show today. Judges matter. Hell yes, judges matter. Judges matter because these are the people that are supposed to be upholding our Constitution. They are our last line of defense for upholding the Constitution. That piece of paper that they couldn't find a single Democrat to join in on the reading of on Constitution Day. They couldn't find a single Democrat in the House of Representatives that is willing to stand there and read a portion of the Constitution on Constitution Day, yet they are more than willing to vote for judges the Democratic Party. Now, granted, the House hasn't a word to say about who's a judge, but it's the Democratic Party sitting there in the Senate that's voting on these judges that are supposed to be the ones to uphold our Constitution, our last line of defense, because they're the ones that declare what is and is not constitutional. They have the last word. And we're getting Biden's nominees. And come on, we all know Biden's not picking these. He's got people like AOC, and not AOC herself, but people like her sitting there picking out her nominees, picking out his nominees, and who's going to go forward. All right. We all know Biden. I don't think he makes the decision on when to wipe his own backside. And notice how here they say judges matter. The article judges matter. The president said, "Now, come on, we know Biden didn't. These men and women have the power to uphold basic rights or to roll them back. They hear cases that decide whether women have the freedom for their own reproductive health care decisions. Women have always had the right for their own health care decision. Do you spread your legs and have sex or not? It's what they're talking about here, and we all know it, is the right to murder an unborn baby, the right to kill an unborn baby. That's not reproductive health care. No matter how they want to try to fancy it up and confuse everybody, we all know what it is. And if you get these abortion rights people, whether Americans have the freedom to cast their ballots. What they're concerned about here is, well, you notice they're saying Americans. They're not saying U.S. citizens. When you get right down to it, anybody that lives in this hemisphere, Canada, the United States, Central America, and Southern America, South America, we're all Americans, even though we're not U.S. citizens. The play on words here. Now, if he would have said U.S. citizens have the right to vote or the right to cast the ballots, but that's not what he said. He said Americans. And the way they're flooding the United States with illegals and shipping them to all across the country and wanting to fast track citizenship. And all these states and cities voting to give illegals the right to vote, give non-citizens the right to vote. Oh, yeah, it's only in the local elections. Really? So this November, you're going to have two different ballots set up. One for citizens that have got the president and Congress and everybody else on there, and one for non-citizens. And none of those non-citizens aren't going to accidentally be given a ballot with the presidency on there. No, that's not going to happen. Whether workers had the freedom to unionize and make a living wage for their families. 100 years ago, unions may have been a good idea. But now the federal government has stepped in and taken care of most of the issues, well, all the issues that the unions were formed to make. Now what the unions are there for is to protect workers who should be fired. Teachers unions, police unions, civil servant unions of all kinds. Cops get fired for beating people up, violating constitutional rights, and 6 months later, a year later, the union has gotten them back on the police force. Teachers who should be fired don't get fired because, the teachers union stops that from happening. So, and of course, the unions, they make all kinds of money for their masters, the union leaders, that comes out of the workers' paychecks. Whether children have the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water. I thought that's what the EPA was there for, to ensure we had clean air and clean water. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called the confirmations a major milestone, staying on the Senate floor before the vote to confirm Martinez that 200 judges comprised the most diverse slate of judicial nominees under any president in American history. I don't want a diverse slate of judges. I want judges who are there for one thing and one thing only: to uphold the Constitution and the laws as passed by Congress as legislation and signed into law by the president. Then that follow the guidelines of the Constitution. That shouldn't take a diverse slate of judges. Because what you're doing there, what you're telling me there, Schumer, is that you're more concerned about how these judges are going to vote. You're looking at diversity of ideology. And you think you're going to get that by having a diversity of color and a diversity of gender on the courts. When these judges, like Brown there, are asked, what is a woman? And their answer is, I don't know because I'm not a biologist. But you can go and ask a fifth grader what is a woman, and they can tell you what a woman is. You can ask a 5-year-old to point to a woman, and they're going to point to a woman. You can ask a 5-year-old to point to a man, and they're going to point to a man. Because a 5-year-old knows what a woman is. But you got somebody that wants to go to the Supreme Court and says, I can't tell you because I'm not a biologist? The bench, the powerful federal judiciary filled with lifetime appointments, should reflect America. We got a lot of dumbasses in the United States. And again, stop saying America. Start saying the United States. Because you guys on the left really concern me when you say America and Americans. You really concern me. Because are you talking about the United States, or are you talking about, or are you including South America and Central America? You really concern me with your use of language and what you mean by the words you use. Durbin hailed Biden's judiciary picks as representing the best in our judiciary. Really? Again, somebody that when asked was a woman says, I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what a woman is. And this is the best in the judiciary? I'm not going to ruin you guys by making you listen to Durbin actually talk about this. But I'm going to make you listen to Dick Durbin. I'm just not going to make you listen to his nonsense there. Make sure that's there. Yep. Oh, Dickie Durbin here. Starting the confirmation. As you can tell here, I had to go through 36 minutes of garbage. Here. Before, opening statements by all these jerks, by all these idiots. Then what I'm skipping here is the nominees' opening statements where they're thanking their families and their husbands and their, because I think these are all females here. Yeah, let's look at real diversity here, Durbin. How come there's no men on this slate? They're all women. That really makes up for a diverse slate there, doesn't it, there, Mr. Durbin? Yeah, lying piece of. Anyway, here we go.
Judge Netburn.
Chair.
Okay, this is her opening statement. So let me back this up a little bit. Oops. I don't want to make you, okay. Maybe 5 seconds of her.
Thank you, and I look forward to your questions for me.
Thanks, Judge Wong. Judge Netburn.
Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, members of the committee, I'd like to thank you for scheduling this hearing and permitting me to testify. I would like to thank President Biden for the confidence in me reflected by his nomination. I'm deeply appreciative to Majority Leader Schumer for recommending me to the president and for his kind words today. I'm also grateful for the support of Senator Gillibrand. I've been a United States Magistrate Judge for 12 years and currently serve as the Chief Magistrate Judge for the Southern District of New York. It is a true honor to serve the people of New York in this capacity. If confirmed, I would accept the additional responsibilities of a district judge with humility, seriousness, and allegiance to the law. I'd like to thank my court family.
with allegiance to the law. Keep that in mind. Keep this in mind. She's just saying that if she is voted in by the Senate, she's going to have an allegiance to the law.
Family and friends who have supported me in this process. I joined the court in 2010 as its first chief counsel to the Office of Pro Se Litigation. I have learned so many important lessons from the hardworking people who have dedicated their careers to the administration of justice. Our court is staffed with incredibly dedicated public servants and judges who work at the highest level. I have had more than 25 law clerks and 3 courtroom deputies. Several of my law clerks and deputies are here today, and I am grateful for their support. In many ways, my path to this nomination was paved by their hard work and commitment to the rule of law. I'd like to thank my friends for their support, many of whom are home watching.
Tyra, I don't hate you guys. But you see, like I've said before, all right, I don't want to have anybody accuse me of cherry picking what these idiots say. I want you to hear it coming out of their own mouths. I want you to hear those words escape their lips in the context that they gave it. I learned my lesson way back when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House. And they're talking about Medicare. And Newt was trying to get a new system in. And one of the comments he made is that Medicare, and I wish I had the whole statement, but he was saying that if enough people, when people move to this new system, Medicare would wither on the vine. And the Democrats and the media, and Newt Gingrich was hated. He was hated because he orchestrated the first Republican-led House in over 40 years. He led that charge. That got for 40 years, the Democrats had a stranglehold on the House of Representatives. And Newt Gingrich broke that. With his thing, I don't remember what it was called now, Contract with America. He broke it with his Contract with America. And it was 10 things that they would vote on right away. Then promised they'd all pass, but he said that these are the first 10 things that we're going to bring up. And the Democrats and the media hated that. But they hated him so badly that they accused him of wanting to take away Medicare because he was going to make it wither on the vine. Well, no, Newt Gingrich was trying to get something better in. So anyway, I don't want to be accused of taking people out of context. I'm going to let you listen to what they said.
Finally, I'd like to thank my family. My parents couldn't be here today because they are traveling to Montana to celebrate my oldest nephew's high school graduation. I am, however, grateful for their decades of support. My amazing children are here today. You are both the most important people in my life, and I'm proud to be your mom. And of course, my husband, John, is here. I'm lucky to have in my life partner a lawyer who has also committed his career to public service and excellence. Thank you all for your support and encouragement.
Okay. Ha! Looks like I paused that just in time. Now we're going to skip to Lindsey Graham here, asking his questions. Any questions any questions or things that I skip? When I make these skips, it's because they're talking to other people. Morning, Wiley. So here's old Lindsey Graham asking her. And like I said, this this woman, she took up 99% of these committee hearings.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about a case you had, I think, involving, get my facts right, the transfer of a person, a female male who became biological male. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, I know which case you're referring
Okay.
to. It was a habeas petition.
Yeah, and it was somebody who had been convicted in 94 for raping a child and a male child and raping a 17-year-old female. They served their sentence. They got out. They were sentenced.
Oh, no,
you,
I
Mr.
didn't do that.
Judge Netburn, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about a case you had, I think, involving, get my
I'm
facts
sorry
right,
about that,
the
guys.
transfer of a person, a female male who became biological male. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, I know which case you're referring
Okay.
to. It was a habeas petition.
Yeah, and it was somebody who had been convicted in 94 for raping a child and a male child and raping a 17-year-old female. They served their sentence. They got out.
Okay. Notice how they keep saying male child. If I am correct, I think somewhere along the lines here, they tell you that boy was only 9 years old. So this guy, his predilections was quite wide. He had a diverse taste in victims. So the left probably likes him because he celebrates diversity. He likes young boys and older women, older girls.
They were sentenced, convicted of distributing child pornography. The biological male transitioned into being a female, and the Bureau of Prisons objected to the person going into the female system. Do you remember all that?
I do, Senator.
Okay. And you basically ruled in favor of the petitioner, saying that the Bureau of Prisons' concerns about the intimidation and the threat to female inmates was theoretical. Is that
The guy had already proven that he liked to rape a 17-year-old woman. So would it really be theoretical that he might not want to rape another woman? Or is it because he was going into a place where they were all older than 17? His taste may not be that diverse. He only likes young women, not older women. Even though they all got the same body parts.
right?
Thank you, Senator. In that habeas petition, I issued a report and recommendation, which was based on the facts that were presented to me. Those facts included statements from the 3 wardens who supervised this petitioner, all 3 of whom recommended that the petitioner be transferred to a women's facility because of her serious medical needs.
Why are they calling this thing a her? It's a he. It's he. He's got the chromosomal makeup of a male. He's got the bone, the skeleton of a male. A 100 years from now, when they dig up, if they were to dig up this prisoner's body, and then decompose down to just the bones and the breast implants, they would take one look at that skeletal structure Yep, that was a male. Because the pelvic region of males and females, as we all know, is different. So this is not a her, it's a he.
And
Well,
the Bureau of Prisons,
The Bureau of Prisons opposed this transfer, right?
well, the wardens who were directly
No. The Bureau of Prisons opposed this transfer, right?
correct, which is why the petitioner brought a habeas petition.
Right. So now I'm over time, but I'll wrap it up. The bottom line here is that the concern of the Bureau of Prisons is that a biological male transitioning to a female with a history of sexual violence would be intimidating and threatening to the female population. You thought that to be a theoretical concern because the person in question had attacked male and female people. Is that right?
That's not correct, sir.
That's what you said.
I based my report and recommendation on the record evidence before me.
So you think the concerns of the Bureau of Prison that someone with a violent past regarding sexual assaults would not be threatening and intimidating?
All right, I got a laugh here, Raman. That was cute. I like that. I like that. Hey, Neil, welcome. Glad to see you, buddy. And yeah, Wiley, you're right. You can hear the disgust. And I'm no fan of this man. The only reason why I'm glad to see old Lindsay here in office is because with him, even with him as wishy-washy as he is, he's still a more of a Republican than any Democrat would be. He's more, not quite, he's wishy-washy, man. The guy is a weak sister. But he's got that, and I know. He's got that R by his name. I'm saying that he's got that R by the name. But like I've said before, if you hold too strict of standards and too much of anything, you'll never get majority in the House or Senate because if you kick everybody except the strictest adherents out of your party, you'll never have enough people there to take control of either office. And control matters. Watch this. The end of this hearing will show you how much control matters.
Biological male transitioning to female. You just don't believe that's a legitimate concern?
Let me be very clear, sir. The crimes for which the petitioner was convicted of 30 years ago are abhorrent, and the petitioner was convicted by an Indiana state court and sentenced.
Well, she was convicted of assaulting a child, raping a 17-year-old woman, got out of prison, and was convicted of child pornography afterwards, transitioned from a male to a female. And the Bureau of Prisons said, we do not believe this person should be in a female prison. And you thought those concerns were theoretical. Is that fair?
I based my decision on the record before me.
You want to finish your statement?
Thank you, Chair Durbin. I based my decision on the record before me. The record was that the three wardens who had supervised the petitioner all recommended transfer. The petitioner had had no disciplinary issues at all during her time in federal custody. She had never engaged in any violence, and in fact had been the victim of sexual violence while in a male facility. And the Bureau of Prisons' longtime treating medical provider.
She was convicted of assault.
See a panel.
My decision on the record before me. The record was that the 3 wardens who had supervised the petitioner all recommended transfer. The petitioner had had no disciplinary issues at all during her time in federal custody. She had never engaged in any violence and, in fact, had been the victim of sexual violence while in a male facility.
Okay. I don't know how many of y'all listen to some of the former prisoners on YouTube and TikTok. JD DeLay and Bren, I can't remember, Bren something or another. I listened to a couple of these guys talk about their times in prison, both federal and state level prisons. And one thing they all say, if you are in there convicted of sexual attacks, rape of children or women, you are going to be the victim of sexual attacks. You will be bent over, bent in half like a bad playing card. You will be the victim. Chomos and rapists do not have a good time in prison. And he will be, and this guy, as an admitted chomo and rapist, no matter what prison he was going to be sent to in the United States, was going to be a victim, quote unquote victim. Actually, I don't think he's a victim. I think he just got his, he got paid for his previous actions. He reaped what he had sowed.
And the Bureau of Prisons' longtime treating medical provider also testified during a 2-day hearing before me, who recommended that the petitioner be transferred because of her serious medical needs. I recommend.
What serious medical needs does a man need that can only be given in a female's prison? I want somebody to tell me, what medical needs does a man have that can only be supplied by a female prison? He doesn't need OBGYN. Again, he's got the twig and berries. He doesn't have the cave. He is the spelunkter, not the spelunkee. At least in that fashion. So no, there are no medical needs that he had that could not be provided to him in a male prison.
Recommended that the district judge adopt my recommendation based on Estelle versus Gamble and Turner versus Safley. The district judge adopted my report and recommendation, and the government did not move for a stay.
Thank you. Senator Hirona.
Okay. Now this woman, she asked one question. She asked it of all nominees and they go on, so we're going to skip her.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up with Judge Nat Byrne regarding the JJS case. I've been reading through your report and recommendation, and I just want to review the fact that this was an individual, JJS, who had raped a 9-year-old boy, raped a 17-year-old girl, was put in prison, went to prison for a long time. After that,
treated equally because the career paths that there are.
offended.
Okay, yeah, here we go. I think this is where I got the thing that he raped a 9-year-old.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up with Judge Nat Byrne regarding the JJS case. I've been reading through your report and recommendation, and I just want to review the fact that this was an individual, JJS, who had raped a 9-year-old boy.
Yep, 9 years old. Nine-year-old boy. I'm just hoping that his father never had a chance to get his hands on this guy. Because I got news for you. All right. I will be the one in prison being arrested if anybody ever lays a finger on either one of my grandsons. If my son doesn't get to him first, and I've got the opportunity, I will get to him. And I will be the one putting on the handcuffs, getting those put on me. And this guy just be heading straight to the morgue. But 9 years old. Think about it.
Raped a 17-year-old girl, was put in prison, went to prison for a long time. After that person was paroled, JJS, the way you put it on page 44 of the report and recommendation was that that JJS sent 2 sexually explicit images of minors in 2015 while out on parole. I should point out this is kind of a euphemistic reference. These were not just sexually explicit images. These were sexually explicit images of adults violently molesting children, sexually assaulting, abusing children violently. Every time this person has had an opportunity to offend, this person has offended. And yet you recommended this person against the recommendation of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons to go to a women's facility. Now, your reasoning here is stunning to me. Going back again to page 44 of your report and recommendation, you say, quote, there are no signs that petitioner is at risk of reoffending. I'm struggling to understand how you could possibly conclude that, because the minute this person was released, this person engaged in other offenses. Yes, not a contact offense while out on parole, but there are still issues going on. It says nothing. You don't adequately grapple with the obvious fact that this is a 6'2" biological male. Yes, transition aside, the transition didn't begin until age 51 or 52. By then, JJS had acquired all of the physical, biological size and strength.
Okay, 51 years old. And all of a sudden, he decides that he's a she and wants to go on hormones. 51. This isn't a 20-year-old that's been struggling with it since puberty. This isn't a teenager struggling to learn to figure out what their identity is. Because Tumblr and TikTok and their school teachers have them so confused as to what they are. No. This is a 51-year-old man. He's at the point that he needs Viagra to get it up. So, and all of a sudden they want to go to a female prison.
Advantages of being male. Those don't go away because there is a transition. On what planet does it make sense? On what planet does that person with that sexual offense history, with being biologically male and also 6'2", not pose a threat to the safety of female inmates? I don't understand how you could conclude that this person shows no risk of being an offender. Now, you argue at one point that this person has shown no pattern or history of offending while in prison. Yeah, because JJS was in prison with a bunch of other men where the size and strength differentials aren't quite the same. Can you help me understand this?
Thank you, Senator. First, the crimes for which the petitioner was convicted are horrific. I've been a sitting United States magistrate judge for 12 years. Sexual offenses against children are among the worst crimes that we see. This person was convicted by guilty plea 30 years ago of 2 awful crimes and was sentenced to a very significant prison sentence by the state court judge. About 8 years ago.
Okay. All these crimes are horrific. Peddling child porn, raping children, raping a child, raping a young lady. Not quite a child, but not quite an adult. That's why I'm saying she's a young lady, a young woman, a biological woman who was born a woman, not one that decided when they were 51 years old that they were a woman. A woman with a natural born cooter, not a man-made manufactured one. The look on her face when she's talking about this. You don't see any anger. Do you see any anger in this woman's face? Do you see anything in this woman's face that shows that she is absolutely disgusted with what that man did? Any of his crimes?
The petitioner committed another awful crime, the crime of distribution of child pornography. That is an abhorrent crime, and there are real victims. And the petitioner was sentenced by the Indiana federal court.
I understand this. This is all undisputed. What I want to know is, why is it okay? Why is it safe? Why is it fair to female inmates to send this person to a female prison? This is a guy who raped a 17-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy. Why is that safe? 6'2" biological male.
Senator Lee, as I do in every case before me, I look at the record evidence. I consider the facts before me. In this case, the facts that I considered included that every single warden who supervised this petitioner recommended that the petitioner be transferred to a women's facility because of her serious medical needs, because she had engaged in no violence, no infractions, and in fact had been the victim of sexual assault.
While in a male prison, and this was against the decision of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. Judge Valenzuela Dixon, do photo ID laws violate the U.S. Constitution?
All right. That's about the roughest question asked of any of the other judges. I'll make these other nominees were happy as hell. See nut burn up there. Because they got some serious passes. As far as hard questioning goes. Yeah, Neil, YouTube wouldn't approve of any of my real thoughts on this either. I probably expressed my real thoughts a little bit too well. And now we get to the guy, one of my favorite senators when it comes to these hearings, regardless of the committee he sits on, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, as y'all well know, I love his style because he doesn't ask a question that he already doesn't know the answers to, and he's going to set you up with a half a dozen or so easy questions, and then he's going to hit you with that one that's going to take all those easy questions and make you wish like hell you thought a little bit more about answering them.
Judge Netburn, I was looking at your resume. You went to Brown University, is that right?
I did.
And then you went to law school in California,
That's correct.
and you've worked for the Brennan Center.
I interned. I was a law student
Justice.
intern.
Okay. And you worked for the Center for Reproductive Law and Policy.
I was a law student intern there for 8 weeks during my 1L summer.
Okay. And you are a political activist, aren't you?
I am not. I'm a sitting United States magistrate judge.
Okay. All right. Do you remember an inmate named William McLean, also known as July Justine Shelby?
Yes, I know who you're referring to.
Okay. Mr. McLean raped a child, didn't he?
30 years ago, the petitioner in the habeas case before me,
Did he rape a child?
he pled guilty to that crime. Yes, it's
And
abhorrent.
then he raped a 17, he raped a little boy, right?
I believe that's correct. I believe he pled guilty to
And
2
then
acts
he-
of
and
sexual
then he-
violence.
And then he raped a 17-year-old girl, right?
Again, this case was handled by the state court in Indiana, but I
I'm
believe
just asking you the facts.
I
Don't-
believe-
Don't stall on me now. Did he rape a 17-year-old girl or not after raping a?
I'm going to stop here for a second. The Brennan Center that she was so proud of. Okay. The Brennan Center is that justice works. The Brennan Center for Justice works to build an America that is democratic, just, and free for all. So right there tells you, gives me one problem with the Brennan Center, that is democratic. We are not an America that is democratic. We never have been. Hopefully we never will be. Because as we've all said before, we've all heard it before. Democracy is nothing more than 2 wolves and a lamb voting to see what's going to be for dinner. The Brennan Centers of Justice is an independent, nonpartisan law and policy organization that works to reform, revitalize, and when necessary, defend our country's systems of democracy and justice. Remember, Barack Obama said that he was going to fundamentally change our country. These are people who are working to destroy our country as it was formed. Because you don't want to fundamentally transform anything unless you don't like the foundation it's built on. And you don't want to reform our system and turn us into a democracy unless you don't like our constitutional republic as we currently have. Today we're in a great fight for the future of a constitutional democracy. No, is it a constitutional republic? Again, this is important. This is how this judge thinks. This is where she went to work. And this is what the Democrats put up. They want to get rid of the constitutional republic and put us back into a democracy. Remember how they always push during elections. Well, Hillary won the most votes. She should be president. And California and all these other Democratic states, in order to get rid of they want to get rid of the Electoral College. And by doing so, and their way of doing it, I've got to get up from the computer here for a minute, let Spanky out. And their way of doing it, of getting rid of the Electoral College, is by saying that if a president has enough, if a presidential nominee has enough votes to get enough popular votes to get elected, they are going to change their EP, their Electoral College, because even though their state voted Republican, won by their rules, their representatives to the Electoral College would be Republican. But enough other states had gotten together and going to be a Democrat. Well, then they would automatically change their ballot, their Electoral College representatives to the Democrat. Again, they are trying to fundamentally change our country. And the judges that they pick are ones that they're going to do it with. All right, let me come back here. Back to Kennedy.
My 1L summer.
Okay. And you are a political activist, aren't you?
I am not. I'm a sitting United States magistrate judge.
Okay. All right. Do you remember an inmate named William McLean, also known as July Justine Shelby?
Yes, I know who you're referring to.
Okay. Mr. McLean raped a child, didn't he?
30 years ago, the petitioner in the habeas case before me,
Did he rape a child?
he pled guilty to that crime. Yes, it's
And
abhorrent.
then he raped he raped a little boy, right?
I believe that's correct. I believe he pled guilty to two
then
acts of sexual violence.
And then he raped a 17-year-old girl, right?
Again, this case was handled by the state court in Indiana, but I
I'm
believe
just asking you the facts.
I believe-
Don't stall on me now. Did he rape a 17-year-old girl or not after raping a 9-year-old boy?
I believe that's what he pled guilty to.
Okay, and then he went to prison, didn't he?
Yes, the petitioner was.
And then he came out.
She kept saying, I believe, I believe. Now, those are the facts. Don't say, I believe, because if you say, I believe, that's saying, well, I could be wrong. You either know or you don't know that these are the facts, that case, the case that you made decisions on later on.
And he sent child porn, basically adults raping little children, to another sex offender. And he was sent back to prison, right?
This new groundbreaking innovation allows you to go online anywhere in the world and avoid expensive internet.
The petitioner pled guilty to
Was
one.
he sent back to prison?
Well, that case was in the federal system. So
Was he sent back to prison?
yes, this time to
Okay.
federal prison.
Thank you. And then he decided to transition, and he became a female and started going by July Justine Shelby. Is that right?
Yes.
And
At 51
Ms. Shelby
years of
said, I don't
age.
want to go to a male prison. I want to go to a female prison. And the Board of Prisons said, what planet did you parachute in from? You're going to a male prison with this kind of record. And you sent him to a female prison, didn't you? You said that the Board of Prisons was trying to violate Ms. Shelby former Mr. McLean's constitutional rights, didn't you?
I issued a report and recommendation to the district judge recommending that the district judge transfer the petitioner to a women's facility. The district judge
You said
adopted that
the Board of
recommendation.
Prisons was trying to violate Ms. Shelby's, Mr. McLean's constitutional rights, didn't you?
So I based my decision on the facts that were presented to me in the record.
But it wasn't that your ruling?
I recommended finding that under Estelle versus
Why
Gamble.
won't you admit that was your ruling? Are you ashamed of it?
I'm not. I'm answering the question. I applied Estelle versus
But
Gamble.
was that your ruling?
My recommendation was that the petitioner's serious medical needs were being denied by keeping her in a men's facility.
A violation of the Eighth Amendment, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And
And you still, why have not you said, and I'm mad at Kennedy and Lindsay and Graham and Lee for not asking what medical needs were not being met. Be specific. What are the medical needs that were not being met?
and how big was Ms. Shelby, Mr. McLean?
I don't have a specific recollection. Your colleague just suggested that she was
was
more than
6'2"?
6 feet tall.
And you told the Board of Prisons, well, she'll be okay. The other women in the female prison will be okay because it's only hypothetical that Ms. Shelby, Mr. McLean would reoffend again after he's already raped a 9-year-old boy and a 17-year-old girl and has been sending child porn through the mail. You said there's no chance he'll reoffend again. Did you say that?
Senator Kennedy, I based my decision on the record.
But am I
evidence.
right? Did you conclude that?
I don't have a specific recollection of that. I did recommend that after finding a constitutional violation.
What were you thinking in saying it's only hypothetical that she would reoffend?
The facts of the case were that the petitioner had last engaged in a contact offense 30 years ago. The petitioner had not engaged in any contact offense. In addition, the medical evidence made clear that for the last 5 years, the petitioner was sober and hormonally entirely a female, and there was no
Well, the
evidence.
Board of Prisons didn't agree with you. I'm not going to run out of time here. You're really a political activist, aren't you?
I'm not, sir.
But your record demonstrates otherwise.
I disagree. I apply the law to the facts and come to a fair decision. All of my decisions that have been appealed, particularly this one, the district judge adopted my report and recommendation in full, and the government did not move for a stay of the decision.
Well, Judge Netburn, I'm going to continue on this line of questioning.
This poor woman, well, no, I don't know why I'm saying poor woman. This woman is being, first she gets Kennedy, then she gets Cruz. Look at look at the Democrats sitting here. Look how many Democrats are sitting here. Durbin got up and left. And this woman here is now chair. So we got a grand total of 1, 2 Democrats sitting over here. You got some staff members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 staff members sitting over there on the Democratic side. Maybe 14 if you count this person in the back. But none of the Democrats are here to listening to the questioning. This is the committee that's supposed to decide whether or not these nominees go forward, and the Democrats all left. That's telling me that their minds are already made up. They're not there to listen to anything. Their minds are made up. This is show trial. That's all this is a show trial because the Democrats have left the building.
In your court, what matters more? The rights of individuals or your political ideology?
I apply the law to the facts.
I
of
asked a
every
question,
case.
which matters more?
Well, my political ideology doesn't matter at all.
Okay, so I don't believe you. And I think this case demonstrates that you are willing to subjugate the rights of individuals to satisfy your political ideology. This case involves a male defendant who raped a 9-year-old boy. Was he guilty of that?
Yes, the petitioner pled guilty to that.
Okay, so he raped a 9-year-old boy. He also raped a 17-year-old girl. Was he guilty of that?
He pled guilty. The petitioner pled guilty to that crime as well.
So was he guilty?
I hope so, because she pled guilty to it.
He was a he when he did this.
That's correct.
And also criminal deviant conduct, which the record doesn't disclose what that was exactly. Then, after serving in prison, Mr. McLean was released for parole, but then violated the terms of parole by having internet and was sent back to prison. 1 year after being released again, he was convicted of having child pornography. Is that correct?
I'm unclear on exactly the time frame that you're at, but the petitioner was convicted of distributing child pornography.
Child pornography that was images of adults violently raping children.
Abhorrent conduct.
Okay.
For which there are real victims.
And this individual, 6'2", biologically a man. A minute ago, you said that when this man decided that he was a she, you said this individual was, quote, I wrote it down, sober and entirely a female. That phrase struck me as remarkable. Did this individual have male genitalia?
I think what I said, or at least what
that is a verbatim quote, entirely a female.
Sorry, what I meant to say was hormonally a female.
Okay, but that's not entirely. Did this individual have male genitalia?
Yes.
So you took a 6'2" serial rapist, serial child rapist with male genitalia, and he said, you know, I'd like to be in a women's prison.
Ted, you should have said a 51-year-old. 51-year-old. Not a 19 or 20-year-old. 51 years old before they started transitioning.
And your answer was, that sounds great to me. Let me ask you something. The other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Is that a question you're
Yes,
asking me?
the other women in that prison, do they have any rights?
Of course.
Do they have the right not to have a 6'2" man who is a repeat serial rapist put in as their cellmate?
Senator Cruz, I considered the facts presented to me.
No,
and
she's
I
not
reached a
answering the
decision
I asked you a
based on what
question.
the law
I asked you a
is.
question. Do they have a right not to have a 6'2" man who is a serial rapist put in as their cellmate? Do those women have a right to that?
Every person who's incarcerated has the right to be safe in their space.
But you didn't think so. You didn't think so. And in fact, I'm going to give some quotes from your order because Senator Kennedy is right. This is not a judge's order. This is a political activist. By the way, the beginning of your order says, at birth, people are typically assigned a gender.
Assigned. I hate that term, assigned a gender. I hate that. You're either born with a penis, 99.999% of us are either born with a penis or born with a vagina. One or the other. Yes, you have that very, very, very small percentage that may be born with neither or born with both or some other weird configuration. But for 99.9% of us, you know, it's either one or the other. It's an observable fact. The doctor doesn't come walking in and say, I think I'm going to tell your mom and dad that you are a boy today, regardless of what you have. I'm going to slap this penis on you, make you a boy. I'm going to slap this vagina on you, make you a girl. I'm going to assign you one or the other. Now, the doctor's not doing that. The doctor, he or she, and the nurses observe what is there, and that is how you're determined whether you're a boy or a girl, whether you're male or female. They don't slap that shit on you and then tell everybody else what they got. The only thing they do is slap your ass. Oh man, Tyre, that sucks. Oh, wait a minute, Raman, you're right. You're right. So she's admitting men's prisons have inadequate medical care. Why not petition and do something about that instead of petitioning for a man to be housed with his targets? Good point, Raman. Damn, good point. That's one of the reasons why I love you so much, Raman. You're a smart woman. You come up, you see things that I miss. Good job. Thank you. That's an amazing point.
I got to say that would astonish a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans think you go to the hospital, a baby is born, and congratulations, you have a little boy, a little girl. The assigned gender, I know you went to Brown, but it sounds like it's in a college faculty lounge with no bearing on reality. The Bureau of Prison argued what I'm saying right now, that if you put this person in a female prison, there will be a risk of sexual assault to the women. And you know what you did? You said you didn't care about the women. I'm going to quote what you wrote. You wrote, quote, "The Bureau of Prisons claim penological interest in protecting female prisoners from sexual violence and trauma. This interest is legitimate," that's kind of you to say, "but there are no signs that petitioner is at risk of reoffending. The record is devoid of evidence of incidents of violence or assault during petitioner's incarceration when she was the perpetrator, only the victim. A theoretical risk of sexual assault by the prisoner without more cannot support the BOP's position. No evidence, theoretical." Have you dealt in what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child rapist not at a risk of reoffending?
Senator, as I do in every case.
I know you've been told to repeat the line, "I follow the law." I asked a question. In what universe is someone who is a serial repeat child rapist not at risk of reoffending?
Sir, I looked at the facts that were before me in this case. All of the evidence, including the statements of every warden who had supervised this petitioner.
You also wrote, "The BOP also posits that permitting petitioner to live among women will be traumatizing and possibly dangerous to them. This concern is overblown." I have to say,
just one thing here, people. Okay, one thing. All right, because somebody's going to ask, well, has this Shelby, this convicted rapist, offended while they're in the female prison? This just happened in December of last year. So Shelby has been in the female's prison for 5 months. Okay, that's what I'm understanding here. The way I understand reading what's going on here, all this decision was made and the transfer made in December of last year. Okay? Because none actually gave timeline here.
I were the father of one of those women, and you decided that my daughter's cellmate was going to be a 6'2" man who over and over and over again committed violent sexual assault. I would say the entire justice system is absurd, and it is clear on your record your political ideology matters a heck of a lot more than the rights of those women that you endangered. I think you're a radical, and I think you have no business being a judge.
Okay. Welcome, Janar's Journey. Everybody, Ramen, everybody welcome her to our little get-together here. She is over here from TikTok. Okay. Her and I got into a discussion yesterday, and I have to admit it is rather adversarial, at least on my part it was. It started off a little bit sarcastically adversarial. Y'all know how I can get sometimes. And we had some discussions back and forth, and she asked what about a link. She asked for a link to the streams, so I provided it to her, and she showed up here this morning. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Okay. I do welcome other comments. I do welcome people to stop in, and if they disagree with me, please disagree with me. I've more than once I've had somebody tell me I was wrong, and we've disagreed, and we've had discussions about it. I even open up mic nights and let anybody on. So back to old Ted here.
Hi, I'm former CIA officer Jason Hansen. Or is it? Actually, this is not Jason. This is a copy of my voice.
Judge Nedburn, there was an opportunity during your exchange with Senator Cruz that you were attempting to offer a response relative.
Now, this does not happen very often. And it's usually when the chair, it's obviously granting favoritism here, going to allow her to just, go on without, we've got another 15 minutes of this, and this gets good. This really gets good.
The conditions under which this petitioner was unsafe in the facilities in which she was being held. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to finish that response.
So the facts that were presented to me and what I relied on to make my decision were that the petitioner had engaged in no violence, no physical violence, no acts of sexual violence whatsoever while in custody. All three wardens who supervised the petitioner requested that she be transferred to a women's facility because of her serious medical needs.
Once again, they never say, she does not say what her serious medical needs were. And as Rama pointed out, if she has got serious medical needs, why petition to transfer her to another prison? Why not petition to have those medical needs met at that prison that he is currently in? Damn, I'm just listening to them brainwash me into calling him or her. That's crazy. But anyway, Ron brought up a good point. Get his medical needs met there. And yes, he became a victim, quote unquote, of sexual violence while in a male prison. Well, if you listen to any like J.D. DeLay and other people who have been to state and federal prisons and have gotten out, they tell you if you are in a prison for sexual molestation, sexual charges, especially against a 9-year-old child, you are going to get what you gave. And it's going to be returned upon you 1,000-fold.
In addition, the Bureau of Prisons longtime medical provider testified at a 2-day hearing in my courtroom and recommended that the petitioner be transferred because of her serious medical needs.
Now, that medical professional did not testify for 2 days. The whole hearing was only 2 days. So there's no way that medical professional testified for 2 days if the whole hearing from start to finish only lasted 2 days. The whole hearing being, whether or not to transfer them.
And the last thing I'll say is that the Transgender Executive Council, which is the body that makes decisions,
That was what I wanted to look up, this Transgender Executive Council. Why do we have a group whose job it is to look out for transgenders in the prison system? I mean, they even have, since 2018, guidelines for the protection of transgender. I'm sorry. A transgender person should not get any more or any less treatment in the prison system than anybody else. Everybody should be given the same protections, the same level of protection.
on behalf of transgender transfer requests within the Bureau of Prisons never said that the petitioner could not be transferred, and never, ever said that she couldn't be transferred because of any risk of violence. What the Transgender Executive Council repeatedly said in denying the request was simply that she needed to maintain her hormone levels. That was the repeated justification for the denial of transfer. But the petitioner,
if all they had to do was keep her on female hormones, getting her pills or injections every week or every month, that can be done in a male prison. It's not like they go around to women prisoners, and hit them with the syringe and suck it out of them, then go over to the male and inject it into them. It's not like they've got a pustule that they suck it out of, It's like when I just recently had a nodule on my thyroid that doctor wanted to run some tests on. So they shoved a needle into my throat, into my neck, up to the thyroid, up to that little pustule, sucked out the fluid that was in it, sent it off, and had it tested. Well, they don't do that with female hormones. They don't. There's nothing there. There's nothing there that they can go and stick a needle into and suck it out, then take it over and push it into the man. That's not what they do. Exactly, Raman. They've got cell blocks designed to protect the chomos, which is what he was, or what he is, a chomo.
had reached full female hormone levels before even being incarcerated. At the time, the district judge in Indiana who sentenced the petitioner requested that she be placed in a women's facility. Her hormones were entirely female at that point. And so the decision by the Transgender Executive Council to deny the transfer request based on this idea that it was only because her hormones needed to be consistent and stabilized, I found was a pretext, but they never once said she cannot be transferred because of violence. It was always based on this idea that her hormones had to be.
Thank you, Judge Netburn. Senator
Judge Netburn, that's
Senator
directly contrary to what your
Senator, you
report
all
said.
Now this part gets interesting. And you're going to have to turn up exactly, Drew. You know, you're not wrong. What rights do they need? But this is where this whole hearing, now this is the interesting part. This last 13 minutes. This is fun.
Before even being incarcerated, at the time, the district judge in Indiana who sentenced the petitioner requested that she be placed in a women's facility. Her hormones were entirely female at that point. And so the decision by the Transgender Executive Council to deny the transfer request based on this idea that it was only because her hormones needed to be consistent and stabilized, I found was a pretext, but they never once said she cannot be transferred because of violence. It was always based on this idea that her hormones had to be.
Thank you, Judge Netburn. Senator
Judge Netburn, that's directly contrary to what your
you
report
all
said.
have
That is
had
directly
no,
contrary.
no.
You're gonna follow up.
We're going to
You're
there
gonna
is
follow up,
no
and that's
follow-up.
how it
No,
works.
there is not.
That is
There
exactly
is-
how it works.
Look,
If you follow up, you didn't get extra time, and she just directly contradicted her own report. I'm just going to read her own words
I'm just sitting
because
fair,
it's
Madam
exactly
Chair.
the opposite of what she said. Your own report.
Senators,
quote,
I gave both of you more time to finish your line of questioning. I allowed the witness to finish her. I allowed the witness to finish her response. I allowed the witness to finish her response. That is,
Okay, I understand
that
that you're
is not
scared of the
your
facts.
I have
Madam Chair.
Senator
Madam Chair,
Padilla.
Madam Chair,
Open up
Madam Chair.
testimony and then
she
not
has an
give us a
obligation
chance
to explain
cross-examine?
why she directly contradicted what she wrote in her report. She says in her report, the Bureau of Prisons' claimed penological interest is in protecting female prisoners from sexual violence and trauma. She just told you the Bureau of Prisons didn't say there was a concern about sexual violence and trauma. Those are directly contradictory. And why are you contradicting what you wrote in your report?
And what are you
Madam
trying to
Chair, I
hide,
believe
Madam
I have
Chair?
the floor.
No, wait, point of
I
order.
believe
Senator
I
Padilla.
have the floor.
Senator Padilla.
Are you going to let her answer that question?
Senator
or you
Padilla.
don't want her to answer that question?
Senator
You're
Padilla.
afraid?
This
Very
is
much,
a
Madam
cover-up,
Chair.
Madam
Senator
Chair.
Are you
Padilla.
afraid of the answer to
This
that
is
Colleagues.
question?
No cover-up.
Are
Senator
you afraid
Padilla.
of the answer to that question?
Senator
Colleagues.
Padilla.
So yes,
My
you are
time.
afraid of the answer to that question.
Senator Padilla.
Please hold
Clearly,
my
you're
time.
afraid of the answer to that question.
This is
Thank you.
absurd.
To the nominees before us, appreciate your patience and your dignity. I would like to expand on a topic that I raised in my introductions to the nominees from California, and that's the
I'm going to let this play through because it gets because even though this guy's going to ask softball questions here, it gets really good. So I'm just going to let it play through.
value, not just the importance, but the value of diversity in our judiciary. Clearly, you each bring tremendous both life as well as professional experience, which I think strengthens the judiciary when more perspectives are considered in the deliberations. So I want to extend it further because
Now, he's just sitting there now praising their diversity to 4 female nominees. There's not a single male there. 4 female nominees. Now, would he be singing the same diversity? The same praises of diversity if those were 4 male nominees sitting there and no females?
it's not just the thoughts and experiences that you bring to the table. I think it also has tremendous value when the public views the judiciary. When decisions are made, sometimes, for the prosecution side, sometimes for the defense side, knowing that people are seen, knowing that people are heard adds to the public confidence in the decisions and in the results of the process. But going one step further, it's not just those who sit on the bench that are important in this process. I know everybody who sits on the bench relies on law clerks. And I think you can each speak to an experience you've had as a clerk and what that quality clerkship experience did for you. The opportunity to serve as a law clerk is oftentimes a launching pad for a successful career in the legal profession, whether it's the public sector or in the private sector. Yet statistics show that quality clerkship opportunities and experiences often leave out equally qualified young lawyers of color. And so my question is, do you agree with the premise that more diversity is better for the judiciary? If not, I'd be interested in hearing why. If you do agree, then what would you do if you're fortunate enough to be confirmed to pursue increasing diversity in your courtroom?
Again, this is they're pushing that old diversity line of, well, we have to have people of color, we have to have gays, we have to have lesbians, we have to have all these other people, when none of this matters when it comes to enforcing the rule of law and the Constitution. It's the Constitution and the laws that matter. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. Now, it may make somebody feel good that, oh, look, we got this black person making the same ruling that a white person would make. So because it was a black person made that ruling, I'm going to feel better about that ruling. Is that what we actually need to do? Have we gone so far down this path of, well, we have to recognize ourselves in order to accept it? We have to see ourselves up there on that, in that judge, in order to accept their ruling. When instead, read the Constitution, know the Constitution. See, if they taught, when I went to school, again, I graduated high school in 1978. All right. My last year of high school, an hour a day was spent on the American government. And a lot of that time was spent on the Constitution. 9 weeks of that time, my senior year, was spent on the Constitution from start to finish. Nine weeks was spent covering the Constitution. Another 9 weeks was spent covering the House. Another 9 weeks spent covering the Senate. And the last 9 weeks spent covering the presidency. They don't do that anymore. We don't teach our kids about the Constitution and how it works. We don't teach the kids about the government, the different bodies, and what they're supposed to do and what their restrictions are. Not just what they can do, but what they can't do, which is oftentimes more important than what they can do. The restrictions on the government is more important than what the government can do for us. That's the way we were taught. But now these senators are out there saying, well, it's more important that we have people out there looking like us up there making the decisions, rather than saying it's more important we have people who understand the Constitution and making rulings based upon it. It's more important that we have people from a diverse backgrounds making the decisions. It doesn't matter whether or not the Constitution actually allows it. All right, let me get back to him.
Starting with Judge Court.
Good God, man. Stop eating those. You're going to blow up.
Thank you, Senator. I do agree with the premise of your question. And one of the things that I do now is I do outreach in to the traditional places, law schools, things of that nature. But also I look for opportunities to mentor and opportunities to do non-traditional outreach because of the fact that it is my experience that there are some very talented people who might be interested in entering the pipeline, either into the law or into the judiciary, that self-select out because either they don't see themselves in that space or because the opportunities don't present themselves to them. So I would continue to do the work that I do to make sure that the outreach I do is very expansive and inclusive.
Thank you. Judge Huang.
Thank you. I agree that diversity is very important. As a judge, I think it's important to cast a wide net in interviewing potential law clerks. And as a sitting judge, what I have done in addition is talk to law students also about externing and the value of externing as well as clerking. And so I've given talks at various law schools and with law students about the value in one's career, but also in the experience of being able to see the courts in action and for people to seek out these opportunities.
Thank you. Judge Shepard.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. I agree with your value statement and I agree with the comments of my colleagues. I'll just say that one of the things that I have done as a judge looking for law clerks is to look not just at the sort of traditional elite law schools that tend to be feeders to the federal clerkship path, but to look for very high performing students at other law schools. I've also had great success hiring law clerks who came to the law after prior careers. I had a law clerk who was a chef. I had a law clerk who was an artist. I had a law clerk who was a minister. And I think bringing in that diversity of life experiences also was valuable. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Newman.
Thank you.
I have a point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator
Here
Kennedy.
we
Madam
go.
Chair,
It's getting fun
With
again.
respect, you allowed the witness to go at length and to change her testimony without her being subject to cross-examination. Are you going to allow us to have a second round of questioning?
No, Senator Kennedy.
Kennedy brings up a good point. And he asked a very simple question. Can we have more? Can we re-question? Can we continue questioning this person? Because they changed their testimony. And her response, she didn't even have to think about it. As the sitting chair, remember, Dick Durbin is the chairman of this committee, but he left. He gavelled it into opening, then turned the gavel over to this woman.
What are you trying to cover up here?
There is no cover-up, and Mr. Padilla, Senator Padilla, you'll be allowed the 30 seconds
Well,
remaining
I
left.
want
of
to
your time.
appeal the ruling of the
Thank
chair.
you. I'd like to hear the
I would
the
like to
responses
appeal.
from the two
Madam
witnesses
Chair, I have
remaining.
a point of order. I'd like to appeal the ruling of the chair. You allowed a
Your
witness-
point of order was offered and
and I-
responded
and I
to,
appeal
and
the
I,
ruling of the chair and call for a roll call vote. You allowed a witness, let me state my case.
Sure.
With respect. You allowed a witness to go on for 4 or 5 minutes, change her testimony, knowing full well that neither Senator Cruz nor I could cross-examine her about her perjury.
Senator Kennedy, would you allow the witnesses
I'm
to finish
still in
responding
the
to my
middle of a
question,
point of
and
order,
then we can
Mr.
act
Madam
on
Chair.
your request?
And I think
Senator
we should
Kennedy.
have a second round.
Senator Kennedy.
And I am appealing the ruling of the chair.
Senator Kennedy, would you allow the witnesses to finish responding to my question, and
And
then we
I
can
am
respond to your
appealing
request?
the ruling of the chair.
Senator Kennedy, I gave you a response to your request of a second round of questioning. I have no intention on allowing a second round of questioning.
And I'm
There is-
appealing your ruling.
That is fine. There is no procedure that allows
I
for
would
a
ask for a
roll
roll
call.
call
There
vote.
is no procedure for it that allows for a roll call vote in this committee. This is a hearing. I have the gavel. I have
No, this is
responded
a
to
cover-up,
your
Madam Chair.
request.
This is
And I am going to
I
return
will
to
say I've never
Senator
seen a
Kennedy's.
chair try so hard to protect a witness and avoid answering why she just lied on the stand with her own words, her own opinion.
Thank you so much for your request. It has been heard, responded to. Senator Padilla,
not- but
your.
There will be no
If I
cross-examination.
would like-
The witness shall be
But I
allowed
want
to
to be
lie
clear,
and
I
no one will
understand
ask.
your
So,
ruling. I think I have the
There,
floor.
you have,
Your ruling
have
is-
been,
your
you have,
ruling
you,
is-
you asked for, was there going to be
Well, I'm
another
raising the
round of
second
questions?
point of order. Your
The answer
ruling
is no.
that we can't have a second round, that the chair can allow a witness, after we're finished with cross-examination, go on at length, change her testimony, potentially perjure herself. We're not allowed to cross-examine in a second round of questioning, which we do all the time.
The answer is
And
no,
you tell me
Senator Kennedy.
I can't, and you now ask for a roll call vote to appeal your ruling. and
Madam
you
Chair.
say I can't do that.
No, you cannot.
That's
Madam Chair,
ridiculous.
point of
Thank
personal
you.
privilege, please. Madam Chair, point of order.
Senator Horner.
You know, we have been
Wow. Remember, she did change her testimony between what was written in the records that Cruz read from to what she said there. She changed the testimony. So she should be questioned again as to what happened, as to what's going on. You know, and as Kennedy said, she did commit perjury. They're very strong. Because she was sworn in. And the Democrats have loved charging people with perjury. As long as they're testifying on behalf of Republicans. Steve Bannon, that's why Steve Bannon's going to jail. That's why others have gone to jail here recently because of either not appearing before Congress was subpoenaed, and all of a sudden, well, you need to go to jail. You didn't appear. To, well, you changed your story. We believe you committed perjury. And they've charged them. But this is a judge that the Democrats want to put up on the bench. Lifetime appointment. And like I said at the very beginning of this stream, the Democrats raised hell over how many nominees Trump was getting through and how he was putting all these MAGA judges on the bench. But now they're praising Biden's left-wing ones that have gone up here on the bench. So yeah, this hearing, This, with everything else that went on this hearing, this portion I feel was the most important portion of this hearing. The way the Democrats ran this hearing here at the very end, I think is extremely important because they allowed a nominee to lie or change her story. And they're not going to do anything about it. Okay. I'm done with the judicial nominees. And we're going to go back over. Now we're going to jump into my second favorite thing. Got about 10, 15 minutes left here. So I got time for this. I got time for this one here. Got a school teacher. Libs TikTok found. And this one here, she's also been making the rounds. So let's listen to this woman. And I won't be stopping it quite often on this woman. Ooh, pancakes. That sounds good there, Ramen. I did that latest craze where you make a waffle or a pancake and then dip it into your French toast mixture and then throw it back on the skillet again. And that's actually quite good. I was surprised how good that was. So, but anyway, let's listen to this young lady here. And yes, I'm going to assume its gender as young lady.
I'm being a teacher who's very open about her life. And one of the things I'm very open about is my sexuality. I have a trans flag, a bi flag.
Okay, let me turn that volume back up to where you guys can hear it. All right, now she is a teacher. Public schools.
I pride myself on being a teacher who's very open about her life. And
okay. The teacher is very open about their life. I'm sorry, you're not there to teach about your life to your students. Your students shouldn't know a damn thing about your life, your personal life. Because you're not there to teach them about your personal life. You're there to teach them about the subjects in school that come out of the class book. All right? You're not there to teach them about your life, especially your personal life.
And one of the things I'm very open about is my sexuality.
Your students shouldn't know a damn thing about your sexuality. That is something that should be kept private from your students. They shouldn't know a damn thing about that. Right now is grounds for you to be fired. You should be fired with what you just admitted.
I have a trans flag, a bi flag, a non-binary flag, all on my desk.
Why? Why? Why do you have those on your desk? They're not part of your classroom instruction material. At least it better not be part of your classroom instruction material. No more than me flying my Christian flag on my desk or in my classroom should be allowed. You're not there to persuade your students about your sexuality no more than I am. I would be there to persuade the students about my religious beliefs. That's not what our job is. That's not the job of a teacher.
At my work. But there's one thing I'm not open about, and it's being Polly.
Good. I'm glad you're not open about being Polly. That's something personal that should not be brought up to your students. Your students should know who you're sleeping with, who you're engaging in sex with. That shouldn't be anything for them to know about. Yeah, Ramen, that's Liv's TikTok is school teacher. Yep. Oh yeah, Tyre, we did not know our teachers' first names. And the only time we knew a teacher was having sex is when she became pregnant. And then it was like, ooh, she's got it pregnant. It was whispered about and little winky winkies.
And today that actually became something I had to worry about for the first time. See, the kids
You should never have to worry about it.
are interviewing us teachers as a part of learning how to write profiles on others. They'll soon be doing it with each.
All right. Okay. Now is the time for you to be drawing lines, boundaries as to what they can and cannot ask about. When you're setting up interviews, hopefully you gave them a list of what is appropriate and not appropriate to ask about. Ask about where did they grow up? What state did they grow up in? Where did they go to college? Those are appropriate questions. Inappropriate questions is who do you sleep with? Anything dealing with your sex life is an inappropriate question.
Each other, but they're starting with the teachers so they can all work together on one subject. And one of the kids on Tuesday is going to ask me if I have a partner. And the answer is yeah.
And that's the only answer you need to be given. Yes. That's it. Just yes, I have a partner. Nothing more, nothing less.
And I have another one too. And I don't know how to handle that conversation because while I know that the kids are more accepting of things like homosexuality, bisexuality, all of that, polyamory is not in the conversation.
And it should not be in the conversation. No more than your sex life should be in the conversation. Hopefully you're not discussing what positions you like and whether or not, things you like to do. Hopefully you're not talking about any of that stuff. Or how to do it.
It's not something that is talked about. And I worry not only would this be something that might lead to rumors that I am cheating on my partner or that I am a swinger or something like that, but would also.
If you're having sex with more than one person, then you're swinging. Sorry. You're swinging back and forth between two people. But you're right, it will totally derail the class. And you should not be answering those questions. So you should be telling the students that questions about somebody's personal life like that is out of bounds. Not to be asked.
So just totally derail the class. So the obvious answer, the one that I went to first, is I'm not going to talk about it.
And that's the right answer. That is the right answer. That's not the wrong answer. There's nothing about that should feel wrong unless you're attempting to influence the kids.
But that feels wrong too. I don't like lying to my students.
You're not lying to them. You're telling them it's none of their business. You have a partner. That's all they need to know.
I don't like telling them falsehoods. And also, I don't feel comfortable answering the question by saying, yes, I have a partner, and having to pick which one I pick as the face for my.
Why are you picking one as the face? Yes, I have a partner. End of conversation. They ask any more questions. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to answer that question. Yes, I'm married. No, I'm not married. End of conversation.
My relationship. That feels super, super gross, right? So I guess what tentatively I've decided after talking with my co-teachers and my assistant principal is.
Now, I've already listened to this. And if you've talked to your assistant principal and this was the decision that you came to after talking to your assistant principal, hopefully you are going against what the assistant principal told you to do. Because what the assistant principal should have told you to do was tell the kids that was none of their business. That question was outside of the boundaries to be asked. Because remember, you're setting up the kids to be asking the other kids. Remember that? You're letting them practice on you before they start asking the other students. So you're setting up these kids to be asking the other students about their sex lives, which should not be happening under any stretch of the imagination.
Maybe the right way to do it is answer the question honestly. Say, while I don't feel comfortable talking about who I'm in a relationship with in this specific setting, I will say that I am bisexual. I've dated.
Why do you have to say you're bisexual? That's none of your business. It's none of their business. And by the way, there's only, you're saying you're bisexual. That means two. So how could you have dated people of many different genders when there's only two genders? You yourself said that there's only two genders when you said bisexual. You didn't say you was multisexual. You said you were bisexual. Bisexual means two, not multi, not many.
People of many different genders. And if you're interested to talk about that or my own specific relationship.
Let's listen to this again.
And if you're interested to talk about that or my own specific relationship that you're really, really insistent, let's just not do it in the classroom setting.
You should never be talking about your personal sex life with a student. Period. End of conversation. Not in the classroom, not after class, not at the gym, not at the restaurant, not at McDonald's, not at Burger King, not at your house, not at their house, not at a hotel or a motel. You should never be discussing your sex life. with a student. That should be grounds, just saying that should be grounds to get you fired. Have you removed from the classroom environment until you can be fired. You are not emotionally fit to be a teacher if you cannot see the fact that discussing your personal sex life with a student is always off limits. Always. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it.
And we can do it like in lunch or in the after school GSA club.
Okay, the after school GSA club, that's a gay straight alliance. Now, I would be interested to know, being as they have a gay straight alliance there, do they have do they allow a religious club at this school or a conservative club? One that for students that would not want to join a GSA club.
Or in the after school GSA club or something like that, where maybe it's a little bit more of an acceptable and understanding situation to bring.
It is never the place to bring up your sexuality. There's never a time or place to bring it up.
This up. Now, this is a long rambling thing, and that story has kind of wrapped itself up neatly, or at least it will on Tuesday. But I think it talks.
And Tuesday should be your last day of teaching. You should be removed from that classroom Tuesday.
To a much broader issue, which is that, like, this is a really nuanced thought process I had to have where I had to.
That shouldn't be nuanced at all. It really should not be nuanced. Your sex life is your sex life. What you do in the bedroom, you do in the bedroom, and it should only be known to you and the people you are doing and the consenting adults that you are doing it with. That's it. That's the only people that should know what's going on in your bedroom. Your students should never know what you are doing in your bedroom. Should never be known.
Consider the.
Hey, Raman, do me a favor. What is there something, or somebody tell me, do these sword-like earrings that she's wearing have a meaning? I'm just does anybody know Reggie Junior's journey? If you're still listening to me, do you have any idea if there's a meaning behind these sword earrings? If they weren't pointed down here, I would say that you're probably right. I mean, yeah, you're right, Neil. I mean, I get that goth look, feel from her with that black choker on. Okay, but yeah, there should be no nuanced thought process here.
Process I had to have where I had to consider the emotional maturity of the kids, where I had to consider what they already know and are talking about and what they don't know and aren't talking about.
And once again, what they know, what they don't know is none of your business. Because what you do is none of their business.
And also have to consider, how does this fit in with the content that I'm teaching?
And you shouldn't be teaching anything that comes close to that content.
And the fact of the matter is, this is not a conversation that conservatives are having at all.
And that statement right there is what pisses me off the most. How do you know what conversations conservatives, such as myself, are having with our children? Huh? How do you know? And besides that, what business is it of yours as to what conversations we're having with our children? Emphasis on the word our. They're not your children, they're our children.
They've decided that carpet, like blanket statement, like you can't do this at all. There's no place for it. And
that's exactly right. There is no place for that conversation between you and our children. Okay? You're not there to teach our children about your sexuality. That's not what you are paid to do.
And that just shows such a lack of thought and care. They're not understanding their children as people and where they're at. They're not understanding the content that is necessary, and they're not reckoning with any kind of reality. Yeah.
Boy, could she paint with any broader of a brush here? She really does not like conservatives. Now, I thought I painted liberals with a broad brush. That's not your job to teach our children about sexuality. That's not in your pay grade, dear, because they're our children, not yours.
Yeah, maybe like this is going to be an uncomfortable situation that may lead to some strange conversations, but that's part of being a person. And I'd rather have the kids be able to have those conversations in a safe place at school.
What you would rather have our children to have these conversations with at is not worth a pile of beans. Doesn't matter. As your opinion on this is worthless. It's less than worthless because it's not your position. It's not your position to have that conversation with our children. That's our position to have these kinds of conversations with our children.
Than on the internet where there's no one to make sure they're learning the right, respectful information.
So that was a 3-minute video that took me almost 20 minutes to go through. She's just grown confused ass little girl and spraying on confusing children that don't know better. You know, Neil, you may be right. You may be right. Because she is absolutely confused. Oh, and I closed the tab with her on it, but you can find that video under Lives of TikTok on X if you want. And here's the link to the congressional hearings. I know Neil usually asks for the links. Yeah, exactly, Raman. You are exactly right. She needs to get from a more appropriate age group and not from children that are in her classroom that can't get up and walk out if they don't want to have that conversation with her, or and parents who don't know she's having that conversation with their children. These conversations that the teachers like this want to have with our children, this is what makes people like me say that we want to homeschool our kids. Because of people like her who think that they know better what our children need to know than what and how our kids need to be taught about sex and other things than what the parents do. They have no problem with recruiting or exposing the children to this type of sex, right? But they would be the first ones lining up, raising hell, and demanding that I be fired if I were to bring in my Bible and start to teach from the New Testament. They would raise all sorts of Cain if I were to, bring my religious beliefs into my classroom. They can bring their sexuality beliefs and practices into the classroom, and they honestly believe that's good for the children. But if I were to bring my religious beliefs in, that would be bad for the children. They would say I was trying to indoctrinate or proselytize to the kids. What are they trying to do? What are they doing when they say, well, yeah, especially if they're, that's a good looking young lady. No bones about it. She's a good looking young lady. And I'm sure she's got some male students that would, oh, so you're like having multiple partners, huh? Well, let's discuss this after class in the privacy of your home or somewhere where, we can be private. No, let's discuss this in the back seat of your car tonight. This is an issue. And they see nothing wrong with it. They think they're doing good. Just as I would think I'd be doing good if I were to teach the kids my religious beliefs. I would think I'd be doing the right thing. And I've got the words there in the Bible telling me I'm doing the right thing. But the school is not the place for me to be doing that. No more is the school the place for her to be doing what she's doing. We have a secular government for a reason. And just because it's a secular government doesn't mean that she can teach her personal beliefs. Just because I'm not allowed to teach my religious beliefs doesn't mean that she's allowed to teach her non-religious beliefs. Am I making sense in what I'm trying to say there? She is there to instruct the children reading, writing, and arithmetic. She's not there to teach them sex and her sexuality and her beliefs in sexuality and expose them to polyamory and everything else. Ooh, Nil. Boy, you hurt. That hurt. Dollar bills, yeah. I wish I made more dollar bills. But anyway, guys, hey, wow, this has been a 2 hour and 17-minute stream so far. And I only dealt with two things for the most part. 'Cause I got one right here. I've got another 2-minute video that's just, let's go ahead and play this one. And I'm not going to interrupt her. We'll just play this through because this is the exact opposite of what, and I would no more want her in my classroom than I want this other teacher. Let's see, is that sharing correctly? Yeah, that's sharing correctly. Okay. I do like your sign here, no secrets from parents.
I'm going to start with Ephesians 5:11. I know you guys like to indoctrinate kids, so I'm going to indoctrinate you tonight. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. That's what I'm doing here today, and that's what I did 2 years ago when all of you tried to indoctrinate the children by sending them to a drag show. Do you remember that, Jody? Yeah. Do you remember when you invited little 5-year-olds to a drag show? Do you know what Encinitas Union School District is known for across the world? Grooming children. Can you believe that? That's what you're famous for. That's what you're known for. Are you proud of that, Andre? And just for the record, just by a raise of hands, because I think this is important. I know you can't speak, but how many of you, by a raise of hands, were okay with the book, My Shadow is Pink? Raise your hand on record that you're okay with the book, My Shadow is Pink. None of you are okay with it. None of you are okay with it. Why do you think it's okay to indoctrinate and push your sick ideology on 5-year-olds? That's called grooming, Andre. Okay? It's not okay. It's not okay with us parents. And I warned you 2 years ago. I will do everything in my power to expose the evil that you are doing in Encinitas. What you are doing has no place in this city. There's a lot of Christians here tonight. And guess what? We are making our voices loud and clear. Do you hear us? Keep your books. In fact, you know what? You can indoctrinate kids all day long. But see this flag? This stands for freedom. And we, the people, have the freedom to opt out. So guess what? All you teachers, you can keep continuing your grooming. We're going to opt out as Christians. And if you don't accept our opt-out, we'll see you in court.
Now, I don't know what she's mean by opting out other than withdrawing kids from classes and homeschooling. But I understand her anger. And I mean, and you know, and I also have to, you know, let's also look at this way, you know, and I'm also trying to look at this here, and one of the reasons why I'm glad we got a secular government. All right. I don't want, just like they don't want me to be preaching my religious beliefs in school, and I don't think I should be teaching my religious beliefs in school, because I don't want a Muslim in there teaching their religious beliefs. I don't want a pagan in there teaching their religious beliefs. I don't want a Wiccan in there teaching their religious beliefs. Okay? I am as much against this teacher, that other teacher earlier, teaching her beliefs on sex, no more than she would want me teaching my religious beliefs, or that I would want a Muslim, a Wiccan, or a pagan, Norse pagan, or Greek, or Roman pagan, whatever. All kinds of weird pagan religions are popping up through the internet. I don't want my child or grandchildren exposed to those in school, indoctrinated into them. So, anyway, guys, thanks for coming out. Hey, and June's Journey, if you're still here, I want to thank you for coming out and giving me a listen. I appreciate you. All right. This is kind of typical for my streams. Every now and again, Raman joins in, and RVA Dar will join in when he's not working. And then sometimes I've got other people popping in saying they got something to add to the stream. And as long as you show me the respect, and I try to keep the cussing and down to the occasional hell or damn. As long as you don't get out here dropping the F-bomb every 5 minutes or anything else, then I've got no problems with letting people pop up. So I think every person out there listening to today's stream has been on the stream at one time or another. So y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. Raman, tomorrow, I hope your throat's feeling better because it is Fun Day Friday. Friday's fun stream. Let's have some fun tomorrow, all right? And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. Yeah, Neil, the topic sort of pissed me off too.